It's a numbers game with your host, Gill Alexander.
It's one of those idiots who believe in analytics.
Hour number 2 of a numbers game right here at VEASAN, the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Gill Alexander, Sirius XM Channel 204. The show brought to you by the good folks over at MGM. Don't begin the football season or any sports season for that matter without downloading the exciting new BetMGM app. If an app can be exciting, this is the one. First-time players can make their first bet completely risk-free, up to $500. And the same guys that bring you Atlantic City's premier hotel and casino will be with you all season long with a wide variety of betting options and easy deposit and withdrawal methods. Download the app and use bonus code VSIN500 at sign-up to get your $500 risk-free bet. That's bonus code VSIN500 to place your first BetMGM wager risk-free. You can sign up anywhere, but once again, you must be in the state of New Jersey to place a bet. New Jersey. BetMGM, it's how you play the game. Download the app today. Must be 21 years of age or older. New Jersey only. Restrictions apply. It is Gill Alexander. It is a Thursday, and it is hour number 2 on a Thursday. And you know what that means. At Bill Krackomberger with the K on Twitter. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the great Bill Krackomberger. Good morning, Billy.
Good morning. How are we doing?
I'm doing very well.
Good. The weather's turning. You could feel it a little bit in the mornings.
How great is it?
Yeah.
The June, July, August inferno that is Las Vegas, literally overnight, right?
Yeah.
Like last week.
Yes.
Just went to paradise after that.
Yeah, I was away for 2 days. I swear, I was in California for 2 days. I came back, and I was like, what happened? Yeah. And it's still getting to like 95, 93, but it doesn't feel like a 93.
Not to us, it doesn't.
No. But
yeah.
nighttime, it could get a little crisp, 70 degrees and 75 degrees. It's pretty cool.
Remember, we got snow last year 3 times.
Yes. One of the worst winters on record here in Nevada.
Yeah, I wonder if that'll happen again. It's a nice place to be most of the year, weather-wise, for sure.
I would like to put a bet up. Maybe one of these sports books can put a bet up. Will the Dolphins win a game first, or will it snow in Las Vegas?
Well, we do have the props. Will the Dolphins win a game? Will the Patriots lose a game?
I've seen that.
Yeah. Yep. The Patriots to go undefeated. The yes was plus 920 last I looked. Oh, we have it right here on the screen. How about that? 10-1. Although I think they got knocked down a little. To 920, but the yes on the Patriots to go 16-0. Will the Dolphins go 0-16? That yes is all the way down now to plus 400. That's not nearly as exciting anymore at plus 400. But the Dolphins, as we said, they could be historically bad, right? Like the Dolphins could completely be the exception to every rule we've ever seen. We don't know. It's only 2 weeks. But should we do? But since this is, it is such a unique week, Bill, let's just start there. Because we have 2 instances this week again, and I know you were tweeting about this yesterday. The New England Patriots are, I'll call it 22.5-point favorites consensus. There's some 23s out there. But the Patriots right now are consensus 22.5-point favorites over the, by the way, right as I'm talking, I see the Christmas tree lighting up there. So let's call it 22.5 right now, hosting Luke Falk and the New York Jets. You seen those Sam Darnold memes with the mononucleosis? Great memes out there. And then and Sam Darnold he'll be okay in a few weeks. It's just that you can't play with mono because there's repercussions if your spleen gets hit. So he is going to be out. Luke Falk is their quarterback. So New England 22.5 there. And then Dallas, they're 22. I guess I can call this, it's kind of all over the place, right? There's 21.5s. I see 22s. I see 23s. Let's call it 22 for now, in favor of the Cowboys over the aforementioned Miami Dolphins. Bill, the last time, those 2 spreads right there. When you go back in the entire database of the NFL since the 70s, we have spreads on record that we actually have a database for, those 2 right there, if we're to call them, let's just call them 22 and 22.5, I guess is what I just said they were, or 21.5 and 22.5. Those are the 6th and 8th biggest spreads in the history of the National Football League.
In the same week.
In the same week.
Unbelievable.
And I said it with baseball before last season. The chasm between the haves and the have-nots just getting wider and wider. And we're seeing it in football now. And so the last time, and we can show this tweet, Jeff, up on the screen. The last time that there were 2 spreads like this, you could read this, Jeff, because there's a tripod right in front of me. I can't read it, but read that for everybody.
Sure. From Nick Veronica, context that makes this extra incredible was a tweet from Mike Reese about about the Patriots being as big of a favorite as they are. The last time two teams were favored by 20 or more in the same week was Week 5 of 1987. That was the strike season when replacement players were used. San Francisco was favored by 23 when Joe Montana crossed the picket lines to play. Dallas was favored by 21.5. Randy White played for Dallas that day.
Here's the thing about that. Dallas lost outright in that game because I believe Week 5 was the third of those strike games. Dallas had Randy White, Danny White, and Tony Dorsett playing for them. And the Washington Redskins, there's been movies made about this, right? There's a 30 for 30 about this, about the Redskins replacement players. Joe Gibbs, a man who won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks and 3 different offenses, maybe his finest coaching performance of all was to take this ragtag group of replacement players. They went into Dallas. Tony Williams, I believe, was the starting quarterback from Tennessee. What was his nickname? 747, something like that. Somebody will tell me what his nickname was. And the Redskins went in there and beat the Cowboys outright. Those games, by the way, counted in the standings, and the Redskins went 3-0 in their replacement teams. What was derisively called scab games at the time, and that 3-0 propelled the Redskins into the playoffs, and they ended up going to the Super Bowl and beating the Broncos in the Super Bowl that year. Doug Williams' epic performance in 1987. But that week 5 in 1987, it was replacement players though, so it's not really the same thing, but that's the last time, Bill, that we had 2 favorites of this magnitude in 1 week.
I usually don't tweet about NFL. My stance on NFL's sides are almost impossible to beat. But I just noticed a situation, and I noticed a 23.5 at the time yesterday when I did tweet that, which is now gone. But there's 23s out here at many casinos. What New England team are you going to get? Because I thought last week that Belichick was going to kind of take it easy on his former defensive guy. He's the coach of the Dolphins now, am I correct?
Right.
And I figured he would take it a little bit easy on him.
I'm glad
he was throwing when it was 36-0.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I asked that of Michael Lombardi on Tuesday. Some people probably thought I was nuts. One of the questions I asked him, I'm so glad you brought that up. I said, hey, Michael, since you're familiar with Bill Belichick, is there any notion of a relationship with Brian Flores? Like when he left, was Belichick a little upset about it? Was he okay with it? Because I just wanted to know, because Belichick has done this to people before.
Yeah, but how can he be? The guy's going to get his career, and then again, it's Belichick. Yeah.
Yeah, poor guy. Brian Flores needs to be asked. Like, did Brian Flores know they were going to do this? Like, if he didn't know they were going to strip down like this, shouldn't he have gotten sort of an apology from the Dolphins? I guess he wants to be a head coach, right? So
right.
Maybe not. But, it doesn't look like poor guy if he didn't know.
What was Lombardi's answer?
With the one about Flores, he said it was okay. That Belichick was just fine.
I was surprised, actually, you ran it up like that. So, now listen, historically, the Jets and New England have played close to the spread recently. I know myself, I was involved in a couple of the games where the Jets and New England, I like getting the extra half points here in town. I do enjoy doing that. We'll get extra half, just like right now. Look at the offshore line. It's New England 22, dog 15, yet you could still get 23 at 4 or 5 shops here in town. So you can get a full point. Mm-hmm. But of course, on 23 to 22 is not a big deal like it is from 3 to 2.5. They play them historically pretty close. I mean, I'm not betting the game, but if I was looking, if it would have went to 24, I might have got involved.
Well, I gave my 5 teams that I like to tease this week, and I hope people noticed that I didn't include the 2 big favorites in this game.
No,
they were not part of it.
Yeah, I would never recommend teasing double-digit games either way, of course.
That's right.
Or NFL totals. A lot of guys text me and saying, I have guys that, because I have my messages on Twitter, so I have my messages on, guys text me, hey, Crack, this is my teaser for the week, and I want to say, come on, you can't tease from 55 down to 48. It's not... I just try to, I don't want to insult no one either, but I'm here to help. So, teasing totals is not something you should be doing, in my opinion.
Since we're on the subject of these historically big spreads, and we just mentioned 1987, last strike year was the last time there were 2 big spreads like this in 1 week. I mentioned this on Guessing Lines. For those who missed Guessing Lines on Monday here on VSiN, or missed the podcast at Beating the Book, and again, record numbers on the podcast. But if you happen to miss both of those, would you like to hear the other 6 games? The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 7th biggest spreads, because these are 6 and 8 currently where they are. The 7th biggest spread of all time was 22 points. So this one falls right in between the Patriots and the Cowboys spreads this week. 2007, that was the year that the Patriots went undefeated all the way until they were beaten by the Giants in the Super Bowl that year. But in week 15, I believe this was. Yes, week 15 of that season, the Patriots were hosting the Dolphins, and they were favored. The closing line there was 22. Patriots won by 21. So they won, but they did not cover. By the way, 35 instances of teams being favored by 21 points or more throughout when databases have spreads. Those teams are 35-0 straight up. No surprise there. No one's gotten upset. But just 11, 22-2 against the number, the big favorites. So here's an example. The sixth one, the Patriots did not cover. They fell a point short. The fifth highest of all time, 1977, ladies and gentlemen. 1977. This was in the midst of the Buccaneers just being as futile as an NFL team there ever was. They lost their first 26 games in history. This was the third game of the 1977 season. The Cowboys were favored by 23 over the Buccaneers, took it easy on them, only beat them 23-7. They didn't cover that one either. Fourth highest of all time. Fourth highest spread of all time. 1987 was also the strike year, the same year we were talking about. I do not believe this was not a strike. This was not a replacement player game. This was late in the season. This was week 14. The Niners beat the Falcons by 28 as 23.5-point favorites. So they did cover. The Bill Walsh led the Niners. By the way, the Niners got upset in the playoffs. Anthony Carter and the Vikings beat them in their opening playoff game, which is a huge upset that year. So that was one that did cover. Third largest spread of all time, Niners-Bengals 1993. Niners were favored by 24 in that game. Niners in Week 12 beat them 21-8. They beat the 1-11 Bengals, as it turned out after that game, but didn't cover. Only won by 13 on the 24-point spread. Second highest of all time, Denver-Jacksonville. This was in 2013. I do remember this game because this was Peyton Manning for the Broncos. They ended up beating Jacksonville in Week 6, 35-19. So they only won by 16 on a 26-point spread. And the highest spread of all time, Billy, 1976. Again, it involved the Buccaneers. This was in their inaugural season where they went 0-14. This was Week 13. The Steelers were favored by 27. Chuck Noll's Steelers. And we still got guys like Rocky Blyer playing and all those guys back in the day, Terry Bradshaw and company. The Steelers beat them 42-0. So that one did cover.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, someone told me something different yesterday that they never covered, but that's interesting.
Well, but the one that you were talking about, where they never covered, was since post-strike, and that is true.
Speaking of which, because it's kind of not that it's before our time, but it is 32 years ago. Did that strike last 8 games, 10 games, the full season?
3 games.
Oh, 3 games.
So 1987. Remember, there was a strike in 1982. The strike in 1982 wiped away 6 regular season games. And the Redskins won the Super Bowl that year in 1982 with a regular season record of 8-1. So there were 9 total games played regular season in 1982. That was the first strike. The one we're talking about in 1987, all teams ended up playing 15 regular season games, but 3 of them were replacement player games, which were early in the season, if I'm not mistaken.
Very interesting. I'd like to know if any of those guys made it. Like the replacement players, the coaches seen something and say, you know what? Bring back that guy that was on the replacement squad. I
think a few of them did. What was Sean Payton's history, too? Was he involved in
I'm pretty sure he crossed the picket line.
Yeah.
Remember, the big problem, and this is the same deal with baseball, too, when there was a strike, the Players Association wouldn't accept the players if they cross the picket line, unless if they're established guys like Montana and the other Boomer Esiason played as well during that strike, the second strike.
Well, in 87,
yeah,
I was talking about the Skins replacement team went in, a ragtag bunch of people went in, and there's a 30 for 30 on this, and they beat the Cowboys of Danny White and Tony Dorsett and Randy White at Dallas on a Monday night. The Redskins crossed as a team. They crossed as an entire football team, and that's basically what was the end of the strike at that point. The Redskins were like, we're done with this. This is going nowhere. So that's how that strike ended in 1987. The Redskins went on to win the Super Bowl that year, too. So 2 of the Redskins Super Bowls victories were in strike years, 82 and 87.
Cool. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good
But
stuff.
Vegas was an interesting place during those strikes, I would imagine.
Oh, wow. I'd like to see what would happen.
Chrissy has some stories
Really?
about
Like the limits that first strike week and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure the line came from, of course, they probably got lines from somewhere offshore when that offshore was just starting back then. Well, I shouldn't say that. It was only one place. It was in Margarita Island back in '87. So, but I'd like to know how they come up with those lines back then.
Yeah, I mean, how could you, right? It was so quirky. Like, you didn't know any of these players.
Yeah.
But yet they had lines.
Yeah.
People did bet them. By the way, speaking of Chris Andrews, this upcoming Monday on Guessing Lines, Chrissy Andrews, the return of story time, and it's a brand new story that he's never told before, wasn't on any of the Beating the Book podcasts, wasn't on any of Numbers Game, and wasn't in his book. So a brand new story time with Chrissy this coming Monday. But he does have strike stories as well. That's not the story that he's telling on Monday. But yeah, I mean, could you imagine, like, you've known none of these players?
Yeah.
And that's how it was back then.
The more I think about it, I like to know. I bet you they did get together here. I'd like to know back then. So where was like Chris in the 80s? Where was he? Was he in? He was involved in the business?
Was he at Cal Neva already? I think it was.
That'd be great. I'd like to know where those. I don't even know the answer to that. I mean, you watch Casino, Lefty Rosenthal coming up with lines, but I'd like to know the real thing. Like, how did it really work back then?
Yeah.
Did 1 or 2 books get it, and then all the rest of them, there was no internet. So
Chris has told that story before. He was in Reno at the time, but I can't remember the details of exactly how it was. But yeah, I mean, it was just a quirky time. And so here we are today, week 3 of the season. That's what's so incredible about this, where we have the 2 huge favorites. The fact that it's in week 3, right? Like, that is a bigger statement to how the rich and the poor, the chasm between the haves and the have-nots, has just gone out of control in the NFL, where we have our first team in the Dolphins, and people, some people retract when you use this word. They're tanking. They're doing what the Astros did. They're doing what the Cubs did. Listen, more
draft guys, right?
Yeah, more akin to tank a Blues in the NBA, where they're like, it's not the players who are tanking, but it's the management who are like, sure, you can go. Sure, you want out? Sure, Minka Fitzpatrick, you can go. We'll trade you. Yeah. And they have stockpiled picks. I was talking about them yesterday. So next year and the year after, the Dolphins are just, I mean, they have amazing amounts of first-round and second-round picks. In fact, let me get that to you right now, exactly what it is. They have 3 first-rounders next year and 2 second-rounders.
Wow.
And
so have they been trading for them?
Some of them have been in trades, right. Yes.
Wow.
3 first-rounders and 2 second-rounders next year, and then they have 2 first-rounders and 2 second-rounders in 2021. So they have 5 first-round draft picks, the Dolphins, the next 2 years.
Can't wait to bet them to win the Super Bowl.
Just like the Cleveland Browns.
Yes.
Maybe Billy's got some thoughts on that. We'll come back. Bill Krackomberger on a numbers game right here at VSiN.
Keep it right here for more of A Numbers Game with Gill Alexander.
VSiN last week. Here's some of what you missed.
Huge news out of NASCAR. Scott Warfield from NASCAR, they've just come up with a big brand new betting initiative. They've partnered with a group, and they're going to start offering in-game wagering on NASCAR races, and they're going to spearhead it for the sports books. So for those that don't understand, we're going to let Scott explain it further, but basically in-game wagering for the sports fans, the betting guys that are listening on SiriusXM or VSiN, they kind of get it. If you do football, every commercial break, they put up odds, they rebet on things. They're going to do that on NASCAR races now, and this group is going to spearhead it. A lot of questions still that I have for Scott, but huge news on the NASCAR.
Right, and I think that's even going to include the potential for a win-play-show bet. Now, we're not going as far as pari-mutuel betting yet. I don't think we're quite there.
We can't.
But win-play-show is certainly something where people can bet that. It's just the odds are going to be a fixed odd. It's not going to change right up. Well, I mean, they can change, but when you bet it, that's the odds you're going to get.
And there's a lot of technical jargon that maybe a lot of the traditional NASCAR fans don't understand, but this is a big deal. This is going to help the network sell. This is going to help fans watch the race more. This is going to keep you interested, and NASCAR is buying into it, and it's being done with the VSiN network, of course, as one of its partners, which is why we put this in this Outpoint. Why, when Mr. Musburger wanted to do this, my dad jumped on the opportunity, and we put this here to be in the forefront of all the sports for this. So huge news. NASCAR, kudos to you. Way to go. Really proud of them jumping on this, and it's going to be big for our sport.
How many people failed to turn their picks in?
We had a total of 9 the first week, and it was some people that, it was mostly people that didn't read the rules and thought they could submit them on the app on Saturday, and they had to be on the app by Friday at 11 p.m. And that was something that they had signed for, but there were some people that thought they can put them in at last minute on the app, which wasn't the case.
What's that conversation like?
That's when we leave for Director Murray, and he's really good, so.
Smart move.
Good call.
Don't tell. By the way, Jeff, don't tell me anybody in the gold did not put their entries in again this year.
I believe there was one in the gold that did not submit it.
Oh my God!
It's,
that's $5,000.
Yeah, you just lit $5,000 on fire. Yep.
It's mind-boggling.
I mean, I think Carolina, if you have a ticket for the 7.5 over, you're in a lot of trouble, because I'm telling you, they're not going to win 7 games this year based on what I've seen in the first 2 weeks. The other issue with Carolina, to me, is their offensive line. I mean, it's horrendous. They can't really throw the ball as well as they need to. Of course, the quarterback stops all that. And when everything has to run through McCaffrey, it becomes very problematic. You've got to really spend time studying these teams. Just don't think they're going to go from what they did last year.
Welcome back to A Numbers Game with Gill Alexander.
It is a numbers game. It's Gill Alexander. Producer number 5, Jeff Parles, is here as well. And as always on Thursdays, hour number 2, it's our friend Bill Krackomberger at Bill Crackman with a K on Twitter. Bill, you have become so multimedia.
Nah, not really.
You shun that title.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just a guy trying to beat the sports books.
Well, let me explain what I meant. You're kind enough to come on the show here all the time, which I am eternally grateful for, because we love having you on. You write for Gaming Today. We've talked about that many times.
Yes.
And then yesterday, was it, or the day before?
Yes.
I was completely unaware you were doing this.
Yep.
And you said even before, like 2 days before you did it, you were completely unaware you were doing it. You did a podcast that was kind of unique. Well, explain.
Well, let me first say, you said about multimedia. Yes, I guess I am, because I don't talk about it much. I do have an app, too, that I write a lot of stuff on, and I have great free stories, great free info on money management, great articles on money management, and just my trials and tribulations in the book. So I guess I am, if you consider my app, absolutely. Gaming Today asked me they started a podcast with 3 sportsbook / risk managers, guys that sit in the back and watch the bets come in. So they said that if you want to do a pod with these 3 guys, and I told Howard from Gaming Today, I said, are you sure they want to do a pod with me? Not that it may make them uncomfortable. It may, I don't know. I'd love to do it. Absolutely. I get to ask questions of guys that are making decisions. Yeah, absolutely. So, guy Dave from Cantor, there was Alan from Caesars, who does stuff on Visa, and Alan Berg. Also Gaming Today. Dave, his last name is Sharapan or whatever. I'm sorry if I get his name wrong. And there was someone from Circa, which I forgive me. I'm sorry, I forget your name. So there was Circa, Caesars, Cantor, and me in a room together for an hour, and it couldn't have went better. I never expected that to. It was one of the best podcasts I ever did. I mean, it was. Listen, it was so productive for me and them. We're combatants in the business, of course we are. But we showed the utmost respect for each other. Everyone understood the dynamics. We all have success, but it's not without struggles and stuff. So it's nice to hear what their opinions are. Like, if I beat them to a line, I asked them. I said, listen, if I bet something +5 and now it's 3 at game time, a college game, let's say, what do you get? What do you guys think? Do you guys get mad? Do you get? All 3 of us said no. We chalk it up to Crack beat us on the line, and that's what we have to overmove when he bets. And we know as soon as his bet comes in, you move it. You learn from it. Maybe you even limit me. Yes, I'll even say that. Yes, I understand you're not going to give me $5 or $10 grand.Maybe you're going to give me $2,000. You take a bet. You learn from me. If you say I'm not sharp, and it's nice to hear 3 guys that are I'm on the same page with those guys. So it was like I said. Just picture just picture anyone at all, not just me being a quote-unquote sharp sports bettor. Just picture me being an average Joe that comes to the book every single day and now gets to question people that are behind the counter in that kind of a setting. It was fantastic.
Were you all present in the same room?
Yes, we were in the same room. Yeah, I was given the option to be on the phone, but I said, let me come down to the studio with you guys.
Sure. And you linked it at Bill Krackomberger on Twitter?
I put it on the Twitter. Sure.
Okay.
It's on the Gaming Today site, too, but I also retweeted it. I'm going to retweet it again on the weekend. It was that good.
Well, so let me ask you this, because I'm fascinated by this, because that is
what an idea.
Sounds good. What did something surprise you in that discussion?
No, not really. It surprised me of probably what their opinion of me is a little bit. I always think that, hey, I'm betting games and these guys say, this pain in the butt. We got to, now we're exposed for $2 or $3 grand on this game. Yeah, move it ahead. He's betting again, whatever, and then they have to deal with, they're dealing with 10 Bill Krackombergers that are moving lines and so. It was nice to know that absolutely not. We welcome your bets. You're very respectful to us all the time. We had a great section on tipping on there, which I liked.
Oh, talk to me about that.
Yeah,
no, they interesting.
When I won the cancer contest down there, I gave each one an envelope, and I forgot about it. I still don't remember it because I have such bad ADD. It's terrible. And the guy Dave was working as a clerk at the time at the M, and I gave each one of them guys individual envelopes based on how much I liked them or disliked them. To be honest with you.
What do you mean? Do you give an empty envelope to somebody?
No, not empty, but I probably put a double sawbuck in an envelope for someone where I put 200 and another one for someone else.
Here's an envelope for you. Enjoy.
Right.
Yeah.
And just I talked about my Walmart gift cards.
Yes.
I wanted to get their opinions. They all said, yeah, you give them to people, rather than tipping. Listen, it's a tough job though. Yeah. On their their defense, it's a tough job dealing with disgruntled horse bettors, race bettors, and then you have to deal with the books that book both sports and horses, and it's a tough job. It is. But however, some of them make it tough on us that come up and and bet also. So
yeah, I mean it's so multi-layered, right? I mean it's very. The easy sort of lazy response is always book bad, us righteous, they're all out, right? So and there are, by the way, we've chronicled them here, many instances where that is the case. But if guys from behind the counter, right, they've and you actually sit down face to face and you become friends with them and you realize, and for me, whether it's Chrissy or Vinny here at the South Point and Jimmy Vaccaro, whether it was Jay Rude, who was the vice president of race and sports at MGM, who I would travel the country with, and you realize the things that they see day after day after day, and the things that different shops are beholden to, right? Some shops are more beholden to corporate. Some have autonomy. By the way, the extreme of that is like an offshore thing where, Tony from Five Dimes, whose body they just found, he was notorious for, he had such a low tolerance for scam that he became the worst guy on earth because he thought everybody.
Scam's a strong word. He had low tolerance for people that beat him to props and stuff.
That's what I mean. I wasn't finishing the sentence. So what I'm saying was that he became the worst because even people who weren't trying to scam, right? He was just a terrible guy to them too. So there's a different there's a different context for every one of these guys. And I think what's interesting about that conversation, and my brain immediately went to Scotty Shetler's description of the old Stardust in old-time Vegas. Literally, like you would have when you would leave the Stardust Sportsbook, you would have mafia guys, the cops, Vegas politicians. Everybody would be at odds. Everybody would be trying to get over on the other person. But when you were in the Stardust Sportsbook itself, literally, like Tony Spilotro would be sitting with Oscar Goodman, who would be sitting with policemen, and it would just be this détente. It was Switzerland.
What a town.
What a town.
Wow.
Right? It was Switzerland in that Stardust Sportsbook, and it's, I wasn't there, but just reading these accounts. And so when I hear your sit down with them, it's not the same thing, but at least it jogged that in my memory, like what an interesting conversation that must have been. Was there anything in there in that conversation where you're like, oh, well, that sucks? Where they did say something where you're like, oh, yeah, I thought that, and I'm still not happy about that.
No, not really. It really didn't come up like that. they were talking about tails at the M, because when the M first opened, people don't know this. When M Casino opened, Cantor came to town, and I was living in New Jersey the year before. When I heard they were coming to town next year, I actually moved. I moved here because I had some in-depth conversations with Leah Matus, who was their chairman. And you know, this was a Cantor Fitzgerald company. It was Cantor Gaming. That division was spun off, going to be in Vegas. They were going to take over the town. And they came here, and I'll tell you one thing. They took over the town. It was unbelievable back then. No casino sportsbook took the bets they did. And people went in there. I watched. I sat in the first row for the first 6 months before I went to the back at the VIP. I watched guys come in there with suitcases, literally, like on TV, like on the movie Casino, dumping out bricks of money. And I'm talking hundreds of thousands. There was a couple times the guys put $1 million in cash on that counter. I mean, it's amazing. They had to have double. Alan Berg said they had double money counters because they couldn't handle it. So, and then there was like, they had the biggest horse bettor in the country there. They had the biggest. There was so much stuff going on there, and it was just great. And it was a great time. That M was. There's the stories there that you've seen. So they tried to get those kind of stories out of me, and I really wasn't really in detail to those, a lot of them. But I did see some crazy stuff there. I seen some crazy bets they were taking there.
It would have occurred to me to have asked Alan Berg. I'm not sure if you did or not, and maybe it's an uncomfortable thing. But from what you just described about when the M first, when it first hit, and the M was the place where everybody came in and bet those big amounts of money, it hasn't really gone CG's way. Right?
No,
it hasn't at all.
No, they're closing books now.
Right. And so it's, that was the understatement of the world, what I just said, right? It's gone completely opposite. And I wonder if Alan has any thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Because it has completely gone the opposite way for them.
Oh, have the mighty have fallen. No, it's I mean, listen, I like the guy that runs the place, Tony there. I like him. So I hope they do well. But, this town doesn't seem to it's like a good old boys club, these sports books here. I think it's tough to even – if you were to try to get in Nevada today, which I know some sports books are, some of these DraftKings and FanDuel and, PointsBet, I went over this with someone last night. It's probably a tougher town since that happened since Cantor came in. I think they had the hugest fine of any casino corporation ever, like $26 million. It's different now. It's going to be scrutinized now. You're going to be put through the ringer more now, and it's still a good old boys club here in town. They're like gaming may be a little tougher on new companies, and I understand it too. For sure, I do.
Yeah.
So
interesting. So Bill Krackomberger with a K, your latest Gaming Today podcast. What did you write about in Gaming Today this week? By the way, was it about that or was it about the big spreads?
I actually wrote. I've been writing these columns almost like a page 6 kind of column where you go off to different kind of little. Tidbits and tabloid kind of thing, like you talk about one thing in a paragraph and something else in another paragraph, and I just talked about different things that was going on in town. And people, my number one question, and sooner or later I'm gonna put this on Twitter. I get a lot of DMs about, hey Crack, I'm coming there for the weekend for a week, and I haven't been in Vegas in 10 years, I haven't been in Vegas in 5 years, or better yet, I was in Vegas 2 months ago, but I really didn't know where to go to eat. So, So I just put some of my spots where I go, and I go out to breakfast and dinner almost every single night.
You know what?
Yeah.
Why don't you hold that thought?
Oh, sure.
Because I think that's of interest to some people. Let's talk about your favorite places, because a lot of people come into Vegas random times during the year, and maybe they haven't been here in a while. Maybe they do want some recommendations. We'll delve into that. We never typically do that, but we'll get into it next on A Numbers Game with Bill Krackomberger right here at VSiN.
Keep it right here for more of A Numbers Game with Gill Alexander.
If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
If we can all agree that Mike Trout's the best player in baseball, would Yelich be number 2 behind him, or is there somebody else?
I have Acuna, number 2.
You have him number 2?
I'd have Acuna number 2 and closing in on number 1 for sure. Yeah, okay. He's the most dynamic player in the game right now. In years where in the past where we would see players chase down 30-30 or 40-40, we're not seeing it anymore, with the exception of Yelich, of course, but also Acuna. I mean, I don't think that we understand enough what 40 stolen bases in a Major League Baseball season is. when I came on the season before the year, you asked me about a prop, and one of the props in Vegas just on baseball alone was the total amount of steals by any Major League Baseball player, and I believe the total was 59.5. Any player stealing 59 bases, and you go through it all. It could be Mondesi, it could be Billy Hamilton. Guys are not stealing bases anymore. It's just over, and this guy's still stealing 40 bases.
He holds onto the ball too long. He makes poor decisions. I think Bruce Arians has got a tougher job than he thought he took on here with the Buccaneers. And now at this point, Jameis Winston hears all the talk. He knows that, nobody thinks he's the franchise quarterback for the Buccaneers anymore. So Bruce Arians has not got to get his head straight and try to make the best of a bad situation in Tampa Bay. Sure looks like the Bucs are a bet against team.
Yep, looks like it. And an overvalued team, possibly the Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield gets on this list here, too. 5 sacks taken, 3 picks, and a 30-point loss. One of those was returned for a touchdown as well. And one of those sacks he took, a safety, right before halftime.
So I think Belichick looks at what happened in Oakland with a different light. I think he sees a player that's very talented, but he also knows he can handle talented players because right now Antonio Brown has just entered into the Navy SEAL program. He's going to have to comply to what the Patriots want to do. He's got a lot of people to help comply with. Tom Brady, you got Dante Hightower, you got the McCourty brothers. There's a lot of people on this football team that will make sure that people comply. No one's an outlier on the team. If they are, they won't be there. And then everyone knows this about Belichick. Either you do it his way or you're not going to be on the team. And I think that applies to Antonio Brown.
So that's a zillion backdoor touchdowns. And my answer is, defense is so hard to play to get a stop in the National Football League, especially with all the illegal contact penalties, and they're going for it on 4th down, and the guys have been busting their ass all game. They don't want to play defense anymore. Backdoor touchdowns will be the death of you. So if you don't think a team like the Raiders can get up 18, don't take the Raiders in that situation. So me, a dummy, did it. Don't you do it.
Welcome back to A Numbers Game with Gill Alexander.
The iconic Bill Krackomberger in studio with us, as he is each and every Thursday for the second hour. Do you know when I say that iconic, I'm not really blowing smoke. It's just that when you literally the Kangol, and you always have the monochromatic outfit every time, you are instantly recognizable.
There was a show on ESPN called Cold Pizza years ago.
Yes, I remember.
So I went on there and I wore a Kangol, black Kangol. And Kangol gets a hold of someone at the producer at the show. The producer gets a hold of me and says, hey, they want to send you a dozen hats. So they sent me one black, one blue, dark blue, which that's really all I wear. I do have a gray one on today. They sent me red, pink, orange, yellow. I was like, oh, my God, where can I wear these at? I wouldn't even wear them anyway. But, yeah, so it's kind of – I like the look, too. And it's a nice vent air hat, and it's just
vent
that's
air?
what it's called, vent air. They get little holes in it and stuff.
No one has done more for the Kangol than Bill Krackomberger and Ladies Love Cool James. It's a
that's right.
Dead heat between those two guys. You're going to New Jersey after the show?
I am. I'm going to Jersey. I just mentioned it off air.
I love your schedule.
I got to be and I make this. I'm telling you, touch a Bible. I make the schedule around my appearance here. I
appreciate it.
I try to. I mean, once in a while I have to come in on Wednesday or something. But I actually did. I said, let me go through. Let me get this airfare right after the show.
Flights are a little more sparse now, aren't they? Direct into Philly.
I fly into Newark direct.
Oh, okay.
And I fly in United. United has the most unbelievable first class fares if you get them ahead of time.
Really?
Like a good. Yes. At nighttime, I'll actually get one of the pods where you sleep.
You sent me a picture of you doing it. Are you still doing the mask too?
Yeah, you get the whole thing. I mean, it's really cool. Like they give you so many things, and you know how much it is? It's $490 or $450 each way.
Oh wow!
I mean, a first class ticket for $1,000. It's I have to travel. It's a big seat. It's comfortable anyway. But at nighttime, if you get that last flight, a lot of times it's that pod for I think last time I did it was $445. I was like, this is the way to travel.
That is a sensational first class flight.
But besides traveling private, it's the best way to fly.
I told you I took that jet suite. I think I told people on the air. I took that jet suite.
They're great.
So there's this West Coast-ish airlines that flies between Vegas, Burbank, Oakland, maybe one other destination. But I literally was on a flight. This is no joke.
Yep.
Bill Romanowski sitting across the aisle from me. Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders, is sitting 10 rows back. The two of them are screaming at each other the whole, not screaming angrily, but just talking loudly about rich people things, right? And I'm sitting, I got an island over there. Yeah, I got a yacht over there. I'm like, guys. Maybe
hit him with a frying pan.
Maybe not relatable.
Yeah.
But they felt really, really comfortable. I'm like, could you imagine if I was taking a flight like this with Daniel Snyder?
Right.
Someone would have to restrain me. Gill Alexander will no longer be with the show anymore. A little incident in neutral air. So you're
going, and the reason why Jeff just mentioned it, he said that he went last week, and you agree with me. The apps were great, right, Jeff?
Yeah, and we talked about this earlier in the week as well. I used 3 this week. PointsBet I used. They were great. Yep. I used FanDuel and DraftKings, and they were both good as well. And
probably number 1, 2, and 3 being DraftKings. FanDuel, DraftKings, and PointsBet. They're really popular apps and lots of opportunity. Do you believe all the different betting?
As I said I said it to Gil. The betting buffet in New Jersey is absolutely incredible.
And you didn't even get the BetMGM app. Which was there.
Which is next time I'm there. It's our nice little code.
Proud sponsor.
Going to come in handy here.
And they give you $250. At least they did 2 weeks ago.
BetMGM's at $500.
$500.
BetMGM.
Yeah. Wow. It's amazing. They're just giving you money. Come on in, sign up.
Parlay did what you did, but on a lesser level. How much free money did you get across the board?
When it was all said and done, because I already had the DraftKings and FanDuel accounts, but I took advantage of the PointsBet free money, so I had $500 when it was all said and done.
And what did you do before the first time you went? How much?
$32.50, then $1,500. Yeah, so almost $5,000. And I didn't even get to them all.
Yeah,
I didn't even get to them all.
So you're going to spend the weekend there betting football?
I am. I'm going to be in Jersey for the weekend. I'm going to be in Atlantic City.
It's a whole new world, man.
Yeah, I'm going to pop over to New York and stop at my favorite bagel place.
Oh,
Essa Bagel on First is the best. It's been there 100 years.
So good.
And and then because I'm getting in so early, so I'm actually flying late tonight on the red eye. Get in there early in the morning, pop over to the city. I may pop over to the PointsBet Studios in Jersey City, and then head down to Atlantic City.
It's a good life.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. As far as the question that we teased prior to the break, for those who are coming into Vegas, you and I never do this. I do on the Beating the Book podcast, people who have listened to this podcast, and by the way, after the show, I'm going to record this week's Megapod. But once a year, we do the Vegas Lifestyle podcast, which is the one non-sports podcast of the year. I do it the week between the championship and the Super Bowl. Championship weekend and the Super Bowl.
That's fun.
And it is always the most requested. I slave over all these football details all week long. And the one that everybody still loves is the one that we do on Vegas Lifestyle. So you said, what are your favorite restaurants? For those who haven't been to Vegas in a while who are coming in, what are your favorite go-tos?
My breakfast spots are, you got to understand who I am, too. My brain is, I hate corporate mentalities and big chains and stuff. Yet I will go once in a while to something like a Capitol Grill in Vegas is great here for dinner. So I will go there once in a while. But I have to do old school family kind of places. In the mornings, I go to Lou's Diner on Decatur. It's on Decatur, and it's right down from Arizona Charlie's. If you get off 95, it's right there on Decatur by the Taco Bell, actually. That's all description I can give you. But it's an old-fashioned, it's been there 51 years.
What's the name of it?
Lou's, L-O-U. Lou's Diner.
Lou's Diner.
The guy comes out and tells me, this was the last road here, kid. See this road, Decatur? There was nothing, all desert out there. This was the end of the road here. Like the end of there was no west side. Decatur was it when they opened up in 69. And so I go there a lot. I like it there. It's mom and pop, old school specials on the deli board there, especially on the boards every morning. And it's just like a little local club there. I also like a place, and it's far to go. It's crazy. I go to this place called the Original Pancake House on Fort Apache. It's far. It's way out there. I understand, but take a drive, and it's the best pancakes in the city.
And all kinds of pancakes.
Their omelets are actually baked. They have the guy that owns it. He's from Germany. He has this German some kind of oven, and he showed me it. They bake their omelets at 1,200 degrees in this oven, and the omelets are unbelievable. So,
wow.
God.
And I'm hungry.
Yeah, talking about food.
Jeez.
But, that's kind of my spots.
I can't even think anymore.
There's some other little local spots. I used to go to, once in a while I would go to Mary's Hash House, which is not the Hash House. Mary's on Decatur there. She was on the Food Network, and she's a local proprietor, local owner, so I support them. Dinner time, that's my favorite. Italian American Club on Sahara. literally.
Vinny's supposed to take me there.
Oh, it's great. It's listen. Here's my. I'll read you a quote from the article. The Italian American Club on Sahara, once frequented by Chicago and New York crime families, the club is now looking for new blood as patrons, not targets. This is a last of the Mohican joints left in town. Back in the 60s, the club was a membership-only restaurant where any given night you could rub elbows with anyone from Sinatra to real mob guys that ran the town back then. If these walls can only talk. That's what I'll tell you.
Mayolio, if you're out there, where's my invite? Let's go.
And it's very reasonable prices. The prices they're too cheap. Just like the Lou's Diner, the prices are too cheap compared to anywhere else that I go. But I like that place. There's some other places that are throwback places that of course, you guys know I go to Piero's.
Piero's, I've been
on
there
convention.
with you. Yeah.
That's good.
Piero's
where
is
Casino was made.
Where Casino was shot. Yeah, I've been there with you. I've been there with Roxy and Chrissy. We went. I mean, the Piero's is so Vegas.
It's the place to be seen.
Yeah.
With the every time I go in there, I see Steve Lawrence, Anthony Marnell, Tim Poster, like the guys that are really influential in the town.
Pia Zadora plays there every
there you go.
the weekend.
Yeah, she's very close to the club. One time I was sitting there. Real quick, Freddie story for the guy. The owner's Freddie. I'm eating dinner with Freddie, the owner, and we're talking about boxing. This is before the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, way before that. So now there's rumors about it, but they say, it'll never happen, And I'm telling Freddie, of course it'll never happen. I said, Aram's holding back the fight. He gets up from the table. I don't even know this. Aram is walking in. I don't know. It's a total freak. He sits Aram down with me. He goes, hey, Aram, this kid here thinks that you're holding back the fight. True story. I wound up eating dinner with Bob Aram that night. He ordered liver and onions. It smelled the whole table up. But anyway, it's just something I'm thinking about. But by the way, I paid the tip, by the way, just to let you know. We kind of comp meal. I paid the tip.
Wait,
thanks, Bob.
you had dinner with Bob Aram and you paid the tip?
Yes, I paid the $100 tip. Thanks, Bob. Anyway, I understand it. Those times were different then. He was only worth $400 million, not $500. It's not a big deal. So anyway, yeah. So it was cool that I got to actually have interaction with him, and he talked about he wasn't. He goes, we offered Mayweather so much, he turned it down, and he was right. He actually did because the fight took place 2 years later. But anyway, that's a Freddie story. That's my Piero story. It's a good story.
A great story. I love anything where someone's mouthing off about something and then someone brings in the authority.
God, he brought the authority in. He goes, Aram, this kid thinks you're holding back the fight. I have to tell you something. I turned white. I was like, oh my God. Freddie, were you nuts?
It's whenever I have Roxy on, I always call him the Marshall McLuhan of sports betting, and that's a reference to Annie Hall, which is an old Woody Allen movie where Woody is in a movie line, a line to go see a movie at a theater, and there's two people arguing in the line about something media-related, and it's driving Woody and his neuroses crazy. And he looks at the camera as Woody does. He goes, if only there was someone that I could talk to. And so from behind the curtain, he brings this media expert, Marshall McLuhan, a Canadian guy. And McLuhan says to this two people arguing, I've heard what you've had to say. You know nothing about my work, right? So that was
I love your voice.
Yeah, so that's exactly what you with Bob Aram. Bob Aram sits down and goes, that's not how it happened, dude. I love that.
Yeah. Tuscany Grill on Eastern, old school joint. Love it. These guys, it's up towards Anthem. These guys that have been around town for 50 years. I love that place. By the way, I live on the Strip in a high rise. It's you know how hard it is to get to these places. I don't care though. I drive for food. That's what I do. I like being alone in the car too sometimes. And I do take who am I kidding though? I'm always taking people to dinner. No one's gonna pay if I go. Tuscany Grill, Salvatore's at Suncoast, old school piano joint. I like it. It's an old school Italian restaurant. So they're my three Italian restaurants. I shouldn't say that because Andiamo at D I love too. That could be considered Italian.
Andiamo at the D, quality.
I actually had a piece of fish there last week. That was great. I can't believe it. They recommended it. I said, go ahead, bring it out. I'm a steak and pasta guy. Yeah, bring fish. I'll try.
You been to Michael's here at South Point?
It's on my list.
I finally went. Brian Musburger took me finally to lunch there. Never been before.
How about that place? Unbelievable. The original mural, the original front door, those tuxedo-clad waiters, those big captain chairs. This stuff was all present at the Barbary Coast when Michael had it. There's nothing like it. There's nothing
That
like
was
it.
part of his stipulation on the swap that they got to keep all that stuff.
Oh my God! The place is on. I'll bring people that have never really been to town, or better yet, someone that's been to town years ago and hasn't been there. I'll bring them to dinner there. I absolutely love it there. And a couple other ones. Vic and Anthony's at the Golden Nugget. I like that steakhouse there. It's dark. It's everything I'm about. Every single picture on the walls all black and white. I love that. Joe's at the Forum Shops. I love Joe's. It's the Joe's Stone Crab in Miami.
Yeah.
There's one in Chicago, I believe. It might be a third location, but I love Joe's.
See, I'm a crab snob because I grew up in the D.C. area, so Maryland crabs, and then I lived in San Francisco with Dungeness crabs. So for me,
so now you have to September through May they're going to be coming out in the next week.
Yeah,
we have to get some good stone crabs, and I'll tell you what.
Let's go.
Michael's has them. Piero's has them. They're great. We're gonna go.
All right,
we'll go.
All right.
You like crabs?
One more before we go to break.
That's really it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I like. Oh, for lunch I like to go to this Milos at the Cosmo.
Milos.
I've been there. It's like
$29. Best value in town.
It's like $29. You get a gourmet meal that would come out of dinner for $100. You're getting at lunch.
100? Are you kidding? Yeah.
More than that.
Yeah.
You're getting a piece of fish. You're getting oh my God, that place is so good. They get tomatoes delivered every single day. Imagine this is the food hour here with Bill and Gill.
We've never done this before. Might as well. It's good for one segment. We'll come back. We'll review the picks that we made on the show today in case you missed them earlier. Good stuff. Liver and onions from Bob Arams coming back on a numbers game at VSiN.
Keep it right here for more of A Numbers Game with Gill Alexander.
If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
Your line is kicking is for losers. It's something what you watch over the course of every weekend, right, with some of these decisions that these coaches make.
Well, I thought the Vic Fangio one was one of the worst I've ever seen, all kidding aside. Down 21-6, and he kicked a field goal with 8.5 minutes left to cut it from a 2-touchdown game to a 2-touchdown game. The Raiders get the ball back. They go down the field. They kick a field goal to get the lead right back up to 15 points, but now there's half as much time left in the game. The game is basically over. And to me, the worst part there was it was only 4th and 9. It's not like they'd had a holding penalty or a personal foul and it was like 4th and 30. It was 4th and 9. It's a perfectly manageable down and distance. You cannot kick a field goal there. And decisions like that, I like to joke about field goals, but decisions like that are going to prevent defensive-minded assistant coaches from getting head coaching jobs.
Yep.
These teams are not going to hire Vic Fangio types. They're going to look for these offensive-minded younger assistants that would never kick a field goal down 21-6 in the fourth quarter.
What I see the problem with the Bears offense, for example, is the Bears run a lot of horizontal trick plays, but they don't have a system of offense. They try to run it so that Trubisky can be successful. What Lincoln Riley does is he has a core of these different unique plays that kind of fools defensive coordinators, and he's built it into a system of offense.
Tired of all those talking heads making predictions? Well, then it's time to get behind your conviction. Don't watch a game without downloading the BetMGM Sports New Jersey app or visiting BetMGM.com. New customers can make their first bet completely risk-free, up to $500. That's a nice way to start the season. When you download the app, be sure to use my bonus code VSIN500 at the sign-up to get your $500 risk-free bet. That's bonus code VSIN500 to place your first BetMGM wager risk-free. You can sign up and deposit anywhere, but you must be in the state of New Jersey to place a sports bet. Enough talk. Believe in your game. Believe in your bet. BetMGM Sports. Download the BetMGM Sports New Jersey app now.
Must be 21 or older. In New Jersey only. Restrictions apply. Visit BetMGM.com for the full list of terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Welcome back to A Numbers Game with Gill Alexander.
All right, for those who missed it earlier on the show, and thank you to Todd Wright earlier for doing fantasy with us. But my picks today, baseball, I'm on the Cardinals first 5. I'm on the Cardinals full game in their game against the Cubbies, Flaherty against Hendricks. And then the brain deader today, the brain dead parlay is just a 3-teamer, Cleveland, the Yankees, and the Brewers. Cleveland, the Yankees, and the Brewers, which pays about 1.7 to 1. Cleveland, the Yankees, the Brewers. And then in terms of the NFL game tonight, which is the Titans and the Jaguars, there's no pre-flop ATS for me on this. I may live bet it. I'll watch how it goes on. But the Jaguars are one of 5 teams that I like in tease situations this week. Jaguars through the 3 and the 7 to +8. And then on Sunday, Eagles down to a pick, Chiefs down to -0.5, basically a pick also. Vikings, teaser protection at -9, so I don't quite get it through the 3, but I like the Vikings -3 against the Raiders. I think the Vikings get it done. And then the one that Jeff said is the one most likely that he believes to trip me up, taking the Niners down to -0.5 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. All of those, with the exception of the Vikings, meet your Stanford Wong teaser criteria, I should point out. So those are all mine. Anything for you today, Jeff? Nothing?
No, I'm going to hold off. I'll save my teaser for tomorrow, but it's going to be somewhat similar to yours. I'm going to put one favorite in there that you did not have, but I'll wait till tomorrow.
Okay, all right. We'll get that tomorrow.
Someone just texted me liver and onions, big letters. Wow, that's fun. But anyway, just
liver and onions.
You know, the last part of my article does have to help people. This is for sports betting now, of course. People like to touch their money. I understand that after the game, they like to put their ticket in, touch their money, and have it in their hand. Listen. If you want to have fun and enjoy yourself and make it a sociable event, do that. But if you want to be smart, when you come to Vegas or go to Atlantic City, get yourself the apps.
Yes.
You can go to Atlantic City and you can get DraftKings, William Hill, Golden Nugget, Sugar House, all within a 5-minute ride of each other. Now you have 4 books at your arsenal. And by the way, we're going to give you some bonus money too. But at least you have those 4 different line sets. And let me tell you, there are half a points on many games you could snag here and there.
And here in Vegas, it should be pointed out.
In Vegas too. That's why I said Vegas.
Yeah, there's you can get all the apps, many of which, maybe even most of which, will allow you to see their lines even if you have no money deposited in them.
Yes, as long as you're in Nevada, right?
That's right.
You could, but
you can check that out.
No, what's better too when you come to Vegas, you should definitely have the apps of the books like the South Point, because they have an opinion on things, especially on the NFL. They don't go to 3 - 20, 3 - 30, so they use a flat line.
Billy, thank you. Numbers game, VSiN, enjoy.
Keep it right here for more of A Numbers Game with Gill Alexander.